Hey guys, welcome to Pilot Jam on Friday, October 21st. We're back to Fridays. And before I forget, next Friday, there will not be a Pilot Jam. Just throwing that out there. I have we were a little surprised, but we're in a playoff game for football. So I moved back to Fridays, and then we wind up getting a playoff game. So that was a surprise to us, but I don't want to keep moving the dates back and forth because that creates confusion. So next week, we're just going to take a day off. We're not going to do a Pilot Jam next Friday. We'll skip that one, and we'll come back the Friday after. So it's all good. Little playoff game. And I guess if we win, there may be a second playoff game. Don't know. We'll see. Anyway, we'll start out. I think it was Midwest RC was in first. How you doing? He's not playing games. I don't even see Freddie competing at this point. Mr. Skyrider, how you doing? Second, I guess. Yep, you are second. Four Eyes, nice to be on Fridays. Hi all, how you doing, Four Eyes? Good to see you. The Good Life 62, Norm here. Good evening. Hey Norm, good to see you. Elias, do you guys live on this? Notification just popped up and you guys are already here. They're dedicated, Elias, man. They're on Discord, I think, on Discord, because the bot does an announcement on Discord as well. So I think that's part of it. Anyway, William Tam is here, not first. Nope, not first. Bill Higgins, hello. Thank God it's Friday. I agree, man. I'm happy for a Friday. William Tam, some of us have other priorities. Yeah, the right ones. Bill Higgins again, thumbs up. Ken N got home from the field just in time. Not that it had anything to do with my kangaroo landings. That'd be interesting. You got any video? I love video like that. I did some kangaroo landings with that bighorn, the OMP bighorn. Did some kangaroo landings with that for sure. Mr. Skyrider is here. So many people try to fly to the ground. Boingity boing. Yep, you got to let it flare and sail in. Let's see. Jeff H is here. How you doing, Jeff? Glad you can make it. Another Aussie. Aussie's in the house tonight, man. They're representing. We got at least three. I know of Elias, Jeff, and Philip. And I want to say there's another one, but I'm not sure. Anyway, Hobie's here. Hobie was flying with us last weekend. We had a good time. Glad Hobie could make it out, and he picked up some airplanes. We got to meet his son and do a little flying. In fact, that's the video right there. That's the video Hobie was filming. I got to talk to you guys about that video, too. I learned some things about the filming, but we'll get into that. I'll just touch on it. And then Discord, yeah, that's how they get it. Tim, oh, wow, look at that. Sahagan? How you doing, Tim? Glad you can make it. Anyway, we've got some stuff to do today. We're going to talk a little bit. We got a giveaway that we're going to deal with today. That's the giveaway results, not a new one, but we're going to give some stuff away tonight. The winner has been selected, and we'll be doing that. And then I've got some other topical material that we need to cover. We actually had some good discussion on the Discord. And I want to get in a little bit into what we talked about there, because I thought there were some good topical things in Discord that we can spend a few minutes on. And then I actually had a question in the channel this week, and the question forced me to go do some homework. And I thought it was a fantastic question, so I did the homework. And boy, I'll tell you what, when I came up with the answer, I was really surprised. I'll put it that way. It's very much surprised. And I want to talk a little bit about that as well. So first off, we'll do the week in review. And we're going to start out by, Terminal Insanity says, does anyone use an H74 3-wing with iNav? I don't think I have one of those. I don't think I do. Anyway, we'll start out the week by doing the week in review, or the Pilot Jam by doing the week in review. The Skywing Edge. All I can tell you guys so far, there's the Edge flying. About Skywing. Skywing's a new brand to me, and I have two of their products now. I've got the Slick and I've got the Edge 540. And I'll tell you that I was very impressed with the Slick. The Slick was it handled well. That's all I can say, that it handled well. It looks good in the air. It had great presence in the air. Sorry, making a mic adjustment. Great presence in the air with the 73-inch wingspan, and the build quality was very good. You know, I didn't have any problems with the Slick or the Edge 540. They both went together exceptionally well. So I was very pleased with the assembly on both, and the fit and finish on both, and certainly the in-flight characteristics of both. So both of those airplanes did very well. And I'm still very much interested in what's going on with Skywing. I think Skywing has a very good product, and I'll be watching them closely and certainly flying them. I'll be flying them and continuing to evaluate that point of view on Skywing. So very happy with the Maiden. And the one thing I wanted to mention about the video over there, and I'll apologize, but you know, Fred is one of my cameramen, and Hobie helped film this one because Fred wasn't able to make it. And one thing I learned about that video, and I'll apologize for it a little bit, is that if you look at it, it looks a little overexposed, and I found out what happened. And weirdly enough, in the editor, it did not look as bad as it did in production after I uploaded the video. I'm not sure why there was a gap, but here's what I learned. And there's an option in the DJI filming app that has HDR, and HDR was turned on. I've actually, and after that happened, I did a little experimentation learning what it would take to film in HDR, and at the end, I don't think it's worth the effort at this point. So I may experiment with that later, but you know, what I wound up doing was turning HDR off on the DJI app, and that should solve that problem, right? It won't look crispy like that. We call it crispy because it looks overexposed, even though technically it's not. It was really just filmed in an HDR format, and I didn't make the adjustment. So I apologize. That's experimentation, you know, that's upward and onward. And as we introduce new technologies and capabilities into the channel, you know, I got to take my lumps and learn a little bit. So I've learned, I know what caused it, I know how to fix it. And by the way, I've done some testing this week, and we'll be back on track. Yeah, it's a little toasty. It is a little toasty. It's definitely bright. I mean, it's not terrible, but it's not right. So anyway, I apologize for that. So anyway, next up after the Skywing Edge 540 Maiden was the EdgeTX dual rates. I did a little video on that one, and I did that one because it's just another one of those questions that I get pretty regularly. And even after posting the video, I had a couple people, one guy came back and goes, well, it's not universal guidance, which is not true. It is universal guidance. But another guy came in and said, well, I like to do my rates on one and my expo on another. How do you do that? I didn't respond to him because at the end of the day, I consider that to be an outlier, right? There's this thing called a bell curve, right? Most of us fit with our model configurations inside the bell curve. What he asked is a use case that's outside that bell curve. And that's kind of why I showed in the beginning of that video, I started off by saying, look, if you want to put it in the mixers, you can, and it works. Yeah, I started the video with that. So if you know, the idea in my mind is that if you want to change or use that, you can. But it's not a best practice. And that's a thing that you guys got to understand. I've touched on this when it comes to Edge so many times in the past, is that there's more than one way to do things, okay? If you've got something that's particular to your requirements and your setup, and you find a way to make it work on your radio, by all means, go ahead. You know, you don't need my permission. I'm just trying to show best practices, and especially for people who are new to programming, why you do things a certain way in Edge. So that's what's missed when I see comments like that. Apparently, and I hate to lecture the audience, but that's the point. You know, I'm trying to show the best practice. And, you know, at the end of the day, you guys know my answer. It's your money, your hobby. Do what makes you happy. You know, I'm not the ruler of Edge. You know, I'm just showing you best practices and why you do things a certain way. Anyway, that was that video. And I still stand by it that is the proper way to implement dual rates, is to put them in your inputs instead of your mixer. Because in the mixer, I've done it. It can be a mess. And I haven't done it in a very long time, but when I first got started, I used to tinker with that, and it does. It turns into a hot mess real fast if you get complicated. So I'd avoid doing dual rates in the mixer. And then the pilot jam. So yeah, it was kind of a soft week this week, and that's that. So that was the week in review. Don't forget, we've got a giveaway tonight to cover, so stick around for that. And I also, while I'm in between material, I want to make sure I give a special shout out to the patrons of the channel. Thank you guys for joining patreon.com. And I want to remind you, if your budget allows and you like the content you get here on the channel, you can join patreon.com for as little as $3 a month. It's like a cup of coffee. So if you want to kick in, that's great. And I'll remind you that the patrons help, man. It's the money that the patrons kick into the channel. They help me with content. There's no two ways around it. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you for those of you who've signed up for patreon.com. And I want to remind the others, if you haven't, you know, join. If not, that's fine too. It's your life. You know, let's get on with it. And don't forget Discord. I haven't seen Robert in tonight, so maybe Elias, maybe you could post the link for Discord. That'd be great. And as Hobie is reminding everybody, hit the like button. So yeah, if you could do that, that'd be great. So Hobie, I'll tell you what, on that fly day right there at that airplane, Hobie had his he had a DRAC out, and that thing was awesome. He had that one. A friend of his built that, and Hobie, you can mention his name in the comments if you want. But a friend of his built that for him, and it was beautiful. It was a nice flying plane, and I even made the comment to Hobie while he was flying. It looks like he's kind of gravitating toward the faster fixed wing FPV stuff, which is cool. It's a cool niche, and not only that, just to kind of reinforce that point, I just saw a comment on Discord. And I do want to call this out, that Ready Made RC has the Strix Goblin back, and it's up for pre-order. And I did actually notice that a couple weeks ago, because they contacted me and asked me if I would be willing to do some reviews for them, and I said yes. So anyway, Hobie pointed that out. He caught it on their website that the Strix Goblin is up for pre-order. So if you guys saw check my channel out for the Strix Goblin video. That is a cool little plane, man, and it scoots. It's a cool build. So if you like doing fixed wing FPV, the Strix Goblin is a really good option for that. So check that one out. Yes, it's a mess. I thank you, John, for that snippet, because that's what I was doing. Oh, in the mixer. Yeah. Well, I'm glad that helped. It is the right way to, another thing real quick about the concept of the inputs too. You only really need to do it for control surfaces. I have habitually put my throttle in, and you don't really need it for throttle because for electric. Now, I know some of you run gas, so if you run gas, that's maybe a different story. But for electric, you really don't need to even do a throttle for an input. You could just go straight to the mixer. I mainly do it for consistency's sake for the primary 4 AETR. But you don't need it. And the reason I say that is because for throttle, we really don't set dual rates, right? We don't have two control systems, two rates for throttle. It's just really just one. I don't even add expo to throttle, except on the helicopter. And that's more of a pitch curve than throttle. So that's a different animal altogether. But for fixed wing, you don't even really need an input for throttle. Again, I do it for consistency and to make it look the same. All right. So yeah, try that Goblin, man. That's Hobie, that Strix Goblin. The way you like to fly fast FPV, that is a slick little plane. And it's a little scary at first, but it heaves like a football and it flies great. I had a great time flying. I need to get that one back out. Yeah, the Nano Goblin is sub 250. That's right. Yeah, that's right. That Strix lineup, I'm really surprised that they've been out of stock on that as long as they have. It's a good lineup. And that Goblin, it's got the plastic body, the hard foam wings, and it flies great. No Dutch roll. It's just a dart, man. It scoots. Real slippery. A lot of videos on YouTube on that one. Thanks, Elias, for putting the Discord link in. Appreciate you, my friend. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, that's it. Anyway, let's move on. We'll get into the topic for the week. So that was the week in review. Let's do the first thing. Why EdgeTX? I want to go into the workspace, and I'm just gonna. What? That's wrong. That's not right. There we go. That's right. I'm gonna move this out of the way, and I'm gonna bring this up. So here's the question. There was a question that came up on the channel, and I probably could make that a little bigger. Probably be easy for you guys to see that if I stretch that out just a little, huh? How about that? That better? So I had a question on the channel this week. Somebody came in and he said, aside from the touchscreen, what's the advantage to upgrading to EdgeTX? And I thought, that's actually a good question, because I've had that question quite a bit. I get that question a lot, especially from people who aren't, they're not on Edge yet. And for those of you who already are, fine. You don't need any explanation. But I wanted to put this little list together. And so I started going through all the change logs from the early versions on to now. And this is the list I came up with. And I got to tell you guys, man, I don't know what's up with that little, what is that right there? That's like where the list starts over again. There should be a space between there. You see that? It should be spaced out. Weird. Anyway, a little bug in the system apparently. But anyway, this is the list of things that they've done. So LVGL graphics, flex layout, model labels, improved file handling for models, themes, built-in theme editor, online theme editor. We covered that last week. Memory use improvements, ADC filtering. You can change your screens by hitting a switch. So there's an option now in Edge to change your screen by hitting a switch, which I think is really cool. You've got model templates, model and radio settings in YAML format, which is also very cool because you can interchange real easy. There's a modernized sound pack, alphabetized NPM protocol list, channel monitor in the mixer. That's the one where you bring up the model settings. If you go into model settings and you go to the mixer, you can bring the monitor up. Let's see if I can get that. You see that? See the monitor right there on the mixer screen right there? That's what I'm talking about there. You also have the same channel monitor and outputs, auto import of models. So now if you add a YAML, it'll be imported with the label system. Digital gimbal support like for the NV14. Racing mode, no touch toggle, improved hardware diagnostics for analogs, more timer options, extended limits, move to outputs where they belong. That is correct. Active language translation, lots of language translations going on. Power control of aux pins via software, backlight handling improvements, Ghost 12-bit mode. So if you're a twitchy flyer that can fly with 12 bits, that's great. GPS support, custom throttle warning positions, and channel change direction displayed in outputs. Man, all this stuff. This is, and I gotta tell you guys, this is not a comprehensive list, man. That is me going through and picking out the bigger stuff. And I want to just say to the Edge guys, as I look through this list, man, you guys have had a whopper of a year. It has been one impressive year of development for EdgeTX, and a little over a year at this point, but my gosh, man. And I also, I brought this out because there's a point for this. I want to show you some of this too. But it is a huge list of accomplishments, and that doesn't even, like, everything that I put in that list is just stuff that you would interact with as the user, right? As the user, these are things you would see, you would feel, they'd have a direct impact on, you know, your touch or your experience with the radio. Okay, that doesn't even count. It doesn't even count what happens when it comes to the things that go on underneath the hood. So they've implemented LVGL, for instance, to enable the flex layout for multiple radio screens. They implemented the free real-time operating system. I'm not even sure why all that stuff matters, but the free real-time operating system allows them to enhance future development. They've done touchscreen widgets. You know, there's all kinds of other things that go under the covers that you guys don't even see. Fixes and code updates. You can prove this out simply by going to the GitHub and looking at the changelog, and you'll just see. I think the last time I looked at the issues list, the closed issues list, there were something like 14 pages of this stuff. It was absolutely insane. So again, you know, I'm a big fan of Edge because there's just so much work going on, and they're leading the charge, right? They've stepped out on front, and it's no joke, man. This project has really stepped up front, and they are taking the lead in development. And I think one of the really big deals for me is that it is actively being developed. You know what I mean? That actively being developed is kind of a big deal, because while they did take a little bit of an extended window between 2.7 and 2.8, and we're still looking for 2.8, it's not there yet, a little bit of an extended window for that, but that was a major overhaul, very major update to the system. So, but the point is, it's constant development, and all you have to do is watch their GitHub, and you can see it, man. There's always motion on EdgeTX. Those guys are always busy. And, you know, I thought that was a great list. I'm going to bring that back up again. And I might put this on Discord in the EdgeTX channel just to show. But I was really amazed when I went through this list and saw all the different... I should put this back because I like it how the brightness on this kind of forces the background to be darker. That's clever how cameras work, isn't it? Anyway, I was really impressed when I looked at this list at how much stuff they've actually accomplished. And by the way, you'll also notice as I went through this list, the only one that's related to touch is right there. That's the only no touch toggle. That's the only one that's related to touch. So if you don't have a touch screen, if you don't have a touch screen, all of the items on this list are still apropos to your radio, right? It's all still apropos. So anyway, just a little nod to the Edge guys to say thanks again, and to let you guys know, if you haven't switched to Edge or if you're still thinking about it, everything that's been accomplished to date. It's a significant list. There's no doubt about it. It's a significant list. So I will put that in Discord so you guys can see that one. Okay. The next thing up is safety. I want to talk a little bit about safety because this is another one of those things that came up in Discord. And in Discord, there was some debate about it. What happened was it wasn't one of our guys. It was, you know, I think Freddie posted it. I think it was Freddie. He posted it and he said, hey, what's, you know, look what happens. Be careful out there. And somebody hurt themselves with the plane. And I thought, you know, I've never done this on, okay, do we have a spammer? I don't know what's going on with the spam. Yeah, guys, Robert, let's help Tutro out a little bit. He's hitting the channel pretty hard. Anyway, so when it comes to safety, I've never really done anything. Yeah, let's slow Tutro down just a little bit. Yep. There you go. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. There you go. Perfect. They got it. Moderators on top of the job. So I thought when it comes to safety, we could spend a little time talking about safety because I've never done it. Now, I want to be careful about this because I'm not your dad, right? I'm not your dad. I'm not here to preach to you guys, and I'm not here to be your priest or your counselor. I just wanted to do a little bit of a reminder, and the idea, and I also want to point out, this is not a comprehensive list. So it's not comprehensive, right? It's just a couple of things to remind you of things that you need to do when it comes to safety to keep yourself safe, right? To not injure yourself and not get hurt out there, because the injury that I saw looked pretty nasty. I mean, there's a lot of blood, and it looked pretty nasty, and we had some discussion about it, and there's a lot of communication about, well, what could it have been, what happened. We don't know the backstory. So I thought we'd just take a few minutes to have a little safety chat, right? There's no harm in that, right? And again, I don't mean to sound preachy about this, so please don't take it that way, but maybe you're new, or maybe you've been flying for a while and you're a little confident. I'd put myself in that category sometimes, a little confident. Let's start. The first one is props off. Okay. And when it comes to props off, it's real simple. If you're going to monkey around with the model, the single biggest thing you can do to keep yourself from getting hurt is take your prop off. I mean, with the props off, I'm not saying you can't get hurt, especially with a helicopter, because the helicopter's got a lot of mechanical moving stuff. You could still jam your finger up pretty good in there. But for an airplane, you're really kind of down to a shaft, right? And it's a lot harder to hurt yourself if you take the props off. So if you're going to monkey around with a propeller or a model, take the prop off. I mean, that's like the biggest single first thing you could do to take your injuries, potential for injury way, way down, way down. You're taking the teeth off the plane or the model if you take those props off. So take the props off. I mean, it's a simple thing. And I'll tell you what, Hobie can even be my witness here. When we were working on the Hobie bought the Cub, the Nexa L4 Cub Grasshopper for me, and he came and picked it up this weekend. We were doing some work on the radio, and we tried to bind it. We had a little bit of a problem. Once I realized we were having a problem, the first thing I did was I said, let's stop, and I took the prop off. Hobie is the witness. He'll say, yeah, he did do that. So take the prop off. I mean, if you're monkeying around and experimenting, things aren't quite right, stop what you're doing, take the props off. All right, it's simple. The next one is number 2, and this is another one that you just have to be careful of. You have to do radio on first, right? You should always turn your radio on first, because you have to you want the radio to be issuing commands immediately to the receiver as soon as that receiver is turned on, right? So turn the radio on first, and then the next thing you want to do is then turn the model on. So radio on first, then the model on. And then when you're done flying, when the flight is over, the next thing to do is turn the model off and then turn your radio off. Okay, guys, this same guy is back. Elias, if you take care of that, I appreciate it. I don't know what's going on, but Mac, Roger, Tutro, whatever, man, it looks like you're spamming. So yeah, let's just shut them up. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Okay, so model off and then radio off. All right, so when you're done flying, make sure you turn your model off first, not the radio, because you don't want it to fail safe. You turn the model off first, and then you turn off the radio, okay? So model off first, then the radio. That's second thing in safety that you need to do. Number 3 is fail safe. Some of the conversation we had around what could have happened was maybe the fail safe wasn't set, or it was set incorrectly. So when it comes to fail safe, the reason this is important, because we found out, we had some conversation, was that if you have a fail safe on Spectrum, when you first bind, and I'm not a Spectrum ninja, so if I get it wrong, it's okay. Just kind of bear with me through the thought process, okay? If I have it not exactly right, don't hammer me. But when I did the reading, and I found out that when you bind Spectrum, it sets the fail safe where the sticks are when you bind. And so if your throttle is at full tilt on a DSM bind, and that's how the fail safe is set, then anytime you disconnect or turn off your radio, that's what's going to happen. It's going to go in full throttle. So the bottom line here, and this is the moral of the story, whether or not I have that exactly right on Spectrum is not really material. What is material is that you need to make sure you set your fail safe correctly. So you need to understand it, and you need to do a test. If you take your prop off, you can safely test fail-safe to see what's going to happen when you turn your radio off. All right, so understand what your fail-safe is and how it works, and whatever method is set, get it right, and then do the test. You know, I can tell you this is one of those other areas that if you're an experienced flyer, you may get get comfortable, you may get a little confident. Look at this guy is just coming back, huh? Wow, he's really got somebody that's really kind of spamming us here. All right, that's all right. I'm just going to ignore that. In fact, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to trust the moderators. They seem to be on it, so I'm going to let you guys deal with it. I'm going to put the chat away so I can stay on topic, okay? So when it comes to fail-safe, just make sure you set it and make sure you understand how it works. That's the important thing. The next one is the prop arc. When you're dealing with the plane, you're getting ready to fly. This is whether or not, you know, we're not assuming testing. This is you're getting ready to fly. Maintain awareness of that prop arc. It's just like the concept of pointing a gun, right? If you know anything about gun safety, you never cover anything you're not willing to destroy. When it comes to the prop arc, when I have a propeller and a battery, I never put my fingers or any part of my body in a place that prop arc can get me. Or I should say never. I try not to. And I'm a human like everybody else, make these mistakes, but I try to be very cognizant of that prop arc. And I try, if I catch myself, I stop and move myself out of the prop arc. So when you're dealing with a battery or, you know, any scenario where that prop can start spinning, just be aware of it. Now, I know in gassers and nitro, you got the spinner up front, you got to fire it off. And, you know, a lot of guys that are dealing with the plane on their own, they reach their arm over that prop arc. But I know that they're also very aware that they're dealing with that prop arc. So I'm not saying, you know, you can't ever cross it, but what I am saying is just be aware of it. And that's where the colored tips really kind of come in, and they're very helpful. So keep an eye on that prop arc and be aware of it. The next one is throttle cut. If you don't have a throttle cut, you need one. So there's lots of different ways to do it. I've put up lots of videos on, I have every different method of building a throttle cut on EdgeTX that you can imagine. So if you don't have a throttle cut, put one in your radio, use it and turn it on and make sure you know how it works. There's lots of different ways to do it. Every time I've ever done a throttle cut video, I've had at least a half a dozen people come and say, well, the way I like to do it is it doesn't matter. I don't care. What I do care about is use one. That's the moral of the story. Use one. So, this guy's back, huh? Yaks, huh? This guy, you're funny, dude. It's a funny guy. I wonder who he is. Anyway, we'll go back. I'm gonna go back after the video's over and just ban from all, and then report everything to YouTube this person's doing. But man, it's persistent. It's like, it feels like a bot maybe. Interesting. Anyway, thanks moderator for staying on top of things. I appreciate you guys. Good job. Now you got it. All right, so throttle cut, make sure you have one. And then next up is throttle warning. So this is a simple feature on the radio. You can activate a throttle warning on the radio, so make sure you do. It's a simple thing to leave it on, so make sure you get that throttle warning set on your radio so that when you power your radio on, it tells you if your throttle's not at 0. Just make sure. And then the last one is a control systems check. So the thing about a control systems check is, and this comes up all the time too, and especially for guys who've mentioned the concept of flying with the ailerons reversed. I know exactly what happens. I'm going to go up to the big camera real quick, and I'm just going to show you what happens. They do their control systems check, and they go like this. They move the stick back and forth, and they look for the ailerons to move, or they move the elevator up and down, and they look for the elevator to move, and they say, yeah, it works. But what they don't do is they don't correlate the right aileron going up when the thumb goes to the right, or the left aileron going up when the thumb goes to the left. They don't correlate that. They don't say it out loud. So what happens is they move their hand like this. They say, yeah, it's working, but they have them backwards and they don't catch it because all they're focused on is the movement, which is why in every single one of my videos where I do a maiden, I say, I expect the right aileron to come up. So I say it first, right? And that sets my brain to look at what's happening on the plane first. Okay. So I look for that to happen first. Or I say what I expect to have happen, then I move the stick so that I see it happen. And what happens is that creates a stoppage, right? You have this, you stop, and it causes a breakage in that automated response system that says, wait a minute, I said I expected the right elevator or right aileron to come up and it went down. That'll cause you to stop if something's wrong. So I can tell you guys that I've seen that one, and you hear it, right? On Discord, we've heard it over and over and over again, where somebody, said, well, I went flying with my ailerons reversed and I crashed my plane. So I've done it. I did it. I've flown one time with ailerons reversed, and fortunately I had a guy with me who kind of helped talk me through it, and I was able to get the plane back. So, all right. Anyway, that's it on the safety thing. I thought, again, it wasn't meant to be a comprehensive list. It was just basics, right? These are basic fundamentals. There's probably a much longer list, and hopefully you guys have, your own safety protocols in place, but I thought it would be worth spending a few moments talking about it, because I have seen it and it was very disturbing. The picture was disturbing. There was a lot of blood, and you could tell when that thing hit the guy, it hurt, and I thought, why not just spend a few minutes talking about it, right? Making sure we have that little safety reminder, because it's definitely easy once you've gained a certain level of experience to get a little complacent with safety. It's easy to do it, and it's no joke, right? I don't want to see anybody get hurt. So I was that guy with the error runs across. Yeah, see, it happens, man. It happens. We're humans. We make mistakes, and that's what it boils down to. And that's why the safety checks will help you catch those kinds of things. All right. So that's that on the safety thing. Again, I'm sorry. I hate to sound preachy, but this is really, I think for you guys with experience, you'll hopefully appreciate where I was coming from. My intention was just to say, hey, don't forget the safety aspects. They are important. Okay. I'm going to check comments real quick. Boy, the moderators are getting a workout. I thank you guys for keeping on top of things. I appreciate you. I am going to go back and terminate and ban that guy. The good news is he keeps coming back with all these different accounts, so it's easy for me to shut them up after the fact. So I will definitely do that. So thank you guys for keeping on top of things. And that's why we have such wonderful moderators, because they can do that kind of work while I keep my head in the stream. Let's see. I'm going to try and skip over all the nonsense by this guy. I really prefer the vertical screen. Yeah, we're going to talk about this in just a minute. Let me see if I missed anything else. Okay. I prefer the vertical screen. We got that. Robert says, can I put dual rates on the global, logical, and mixers page? You actually know, well, I know you know the answer to that. I was actually, Robert, thinking about doing a video special versus global functions, because that's another area of questions I get quite a bit. And most of the time people are concerned, like, why can I do this in special functions but not global functions? So that might be a good video. And I've been thinking about that one. I actually thought about that some today. But what you can do in global functions is you can put your audible prompts in global functions, and I do that. So in my radios I set, in fact, I'll just bring it up while we're talking. I'll show you guys. I do in the global functions, I do set my let's see here, global functions. This is a bench radio, so don't hammer me about fail safe not set. I know that. Okay. Yeah, the figures. I don't have it set on this one. But on my real radio, my flight radio, I do. I have global functions that have the rates. So I do high rates, mid rates, low rates. I set that up in global functions so I don't have to worry about special functions on every single plane I fly. So that's what I do. So that is a good question, Robert. Even though it was kind of tongue-in-cheek, I think the global and special functions might be something to talk about. Let's see. Breakout Precious. We got it. Robert put up Discord. Thanks, Robert. Let's see. Number 2 is a huge one I see all the time. Okay, we're talking about the safety rules, right? Number 2, I can bring those back up. Let's see. Blackboard. There it is. Number 2, radio on, radio up. Yeah, I see that too. I see it at the field all the time. People plug in their model and the radio's not even out. It's terrible. Not a good one. Terminal Insanity says props are dangerous. I got a bad cut trying to catch my disarmed quad after knocking it out of a tree. Yeah. I've seen. I even did it. In fact, I wrote one of the throttle cut logics videos that I put together was based on the idea that if you've ever had this scenario. Here, check this out. Have you ever had this scenario where your throttle's up and then you disarm, the plane goes taking off across the runway? I did that. I saw it happen to a couple of guys, and I thought, rubes, tourists. But then, sure enough, 2 weeks later, I did it. It was with my stick, my Hobby King blue and black stick. That plane, and that thing has a 900-watt motor. So when I flicked the throttle cut off, man, it went. I was like, whoa. So yeah, that's a dangerous one. So I wrote logic on that one so that when you disarm the throttle, when you unlock the throttle, it still wouldn't activate unless the stick is all the way down. That's a good technique, and that enforces the throttle to be down even when you unlock the throttle, and then of course you can advance at your will. So yeah, that's a good one. Hobie says, I always double check my throttle stick. Yep. Before I turn my radio on and make sure my throttle cut is set. That's right, man. It's good advice right there. That's my look, right? I check those two things. My throttle cut to me, my stick all the way down every single time. I look at that. I always pause and try and catch that one. Patrick says, some people have no respect. Yeah, I know. This guy's trouble. Drone Pilot says, there was a beta flight issue that would start the props after a function. It's fixed now, but was a bad bug that had the potential to be dangerous. Yeah, and that adds another layer of complexity to Elias's point, is that you can have if you have a flight computer involved, that introduces a new set of potential issues. And I can tell you that I have had flight computers involved where if they have return to home capability and if you hit return to home, they will spin up the prop on you. Now, Betaflight and iNav, they do put some protections in place so that it won't happen on the initial launch. But I have had, I think it was a Copilot where I was doing some testing and, I practiced the auto launch. It kicked the prop on. I turned it off, but I didn't reset the controller. And then later on, I hit return to home again. And the second I did, man, that prop spun up. So that's another way you can get bit, is if you're not careful if you have return to home functionality, you got to be careful about hitting return to home, because you can cause it to trigger. They do try and put safeties in place to stop it, but you can do it if you're persistent, and I've been persistent. So that's a good point, Elias. Thanks for bringing that up. You got to be careful when you have those flight computers. Midwest RC says, bind where you want the sticks for failsafe. Yeah, that's what I read about Spectrum. Now on FlySky D16, a little bit different. There's options, but a little bit different. But that's what I read about Spectrum. I was a little surprised about that. You continue. We watch. Yeah, I know. I appreciate you guys again. Moderators doing a great job keeping things clean. Appreciate you. Terminal Insanity says, easier with the plane than a quad. Yeah, I know. Well, with a quad, you also have a computer too. So, you got to go through an ARM procedure, but still, if you're going to be working on stuff, take the props off. Take them off. I mean, minimally on a quad, even if you just, I don't want to give you guys cheats, especially since we're trying to take safety seriously, but on a quad, minimally loosen the nut. So that way, even if they do spin, they can give up real easy. That's another way to deal with that, but that's a cheat, and I shouldn't be advertising that stuff, but at least do that. Anything larger than a 3-inch prop needs to be removed. Man, even those 3 inches though, man, I've had them try and bite me, man. They can still bite. They can still bite. Heli always hold a rotor head, says Midwest. Yeah. Dude doesn't give up. Yeah, you got to hand it to that. Dude was persistent. I don't know who he is, but he was persistent. That's for sure. Terminal Insanity says, people in automatic muscle memory mode who don't consciously think about the danger are a huge source of, yeah, they are. And that's the problem with being experienced, right? As you get to a point, you're like, I'm fine. I'll just, I'll do my thing. I know what I'm doing. And that's exactly what happens. That's where the injuries come from. You get that, you just get complacent. It's complacency is what it is. Hobie says, hit the like button on the way in. Thanks for that, Hobie. I've had that happen before. Luckily, it was a foamy. Hobie says, Ethan and I check surfaces every flight. Good for you. You're supposed to. That's good. See, that's another one. Hobie brings up a good point. I used to stop checking my surfaces after every flight until 2 weekends in a row on my Extra 300, my nice Extra 300, the 60-inch, I tipped the plane over on takeoff. And it turned out somewhere along the line, I reversed my elevator. So what was going on was I was going to take off, and as soon as I pull the elevator, I tipped it into the ground, broke a prop, and those props were $17. So 2 weekends in a row, on the first flight of the day with the Extra 300, I broke a prop. And that's when I said, I need to start checking my surfaces every single time. And I got away from it, but it taught me. So, yep, you got to check them. I saw lots of maidens on YouTube end up in the dirt. Yep, all the time, man, all the time. Great reminder about safety. It's so important. Yes, I agree, Jeff. Thanks for the affirmation. I appreciate that. Don't be that guy launching wings over your head. It ain't. I agree. I've seen that one too, and I'm not a fan of that one. I'm not bringing a prop toward my face. I always launch my wings from the side. So I have seen that before. I'm not a fan of that method. I will always go from the side. I just don't want the prop near my face. Robert says, John, can I put dual rates on? Oh, we already covered that one. Hello from the UK guy, says RC next Tuesday. You next Tuesday? Oh, I see. RCU next Tuesday. Cute. Got it. David Knutz. The David Knutz is here. How you doing, David? Speaking of props off, where is he tonight? I don't know. Maybe he's making a YouTube video. Throttle cut cannot be done in global. There's a reason for that, Hobie. I've talked about that before. The reason that they do that is because there are no channel overrides in global, because channels aren't always the same globally. That's why. So you don't want to do a throttle cut on channel 3 and then find out that you're in a, helicopter that's got pitch on channel 3 or mode on channel 3 or something goofy like that. So that's why they don't allow channel overrides in global functions. That's the reason. Let's see. Flat Rat 3 just checking in. Sorry, can't stay. Have a good night, everyone. Catch you on the replay, John. All right, man. I'm glad you could make it and check in at least. On the ground, I give control to the guy who was helping, and he had it in his throttle full. That plane very quickly ran into the safety fence. Yep. There's a video on that. I think it's called Best Throttle Cut, and the logic on that one is that the throttle stick has to be all the way down, and then when you release the throttle cut, if the throttle is there, it still won't release. So check that video out. It's a good one. I kind of wish I would have come up with that at the very beginning of my career with airplanes. What I really need to do is go back into my setup and in Companion and add that logic to every fixed wing plane. It really is a good method. I like it. Let's see. Terminal Insanity says fail-safe modes will spin up the motor too. Yes, they will. Yep, they will. We think that's what happened to the guy in the picture, but we're not sure. Can disconnect the ESC flight controller cable if it's a plug. Okay. So easy to do radio on tells you fail safe or not. Yep. Turn that on for sure. And ruin my radio faceplate when it got run over by a prop. Yep. It'll happen. We've all been there, man. And that's how we learn. We learn from our failures. You learn from doing things wrong. And then when you've done them wrong, that's how you learn. And then hopefully it sticks after that. Hobie says, even when getting yelled at by club members, we check surfaces. Yeah, somebody yells at me. That's a problem. All right, let's go. We'll go back to the desktop, and that's it on safety. We're all caught up on comments, so let's move on to the next subject, and that is the NV14. So we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this one because it is a somewhat specific topic area, but I wanted to tell you guys a couple of things about this radio. I guess I don't have brightness on a switch on this one, but I'm really doing this again to kind of talk a little bit about the progress that's been made. The very first time I loaded Edge up on an NV14, it was effectively unusable. And what I mean by that was that so many things didn't work, and they had to do a lot of work. I can tell you that I've loaded Edge up on this FlySky, of course. And this is the NV14, and this is 2.8. Yeah, I'm sorry about the brightness, guys. That's 2.8 RC3 Flying Dutchman. So this is a very current version of Edge. And I've been messing with it for a couple of days. Let me see if I can bring this brightness down. I wonder if I had radio settings, global functions, if I have brightness. Oh, I know what it is. Backlight. I know what it is. I didn't have it on a switch. Well, let's see. Oh, well, I'll mess with it later. Anyway, when it comes to, we're stuck here. There we go. So when it comes to the NV14, when I first got this radio and installed Edge on it, there were problems with one of the big issues I had was curves. When I went in and edited a curve, none of the curve values stayed, and that was definitely problematic. So they fixed that. They fixed so many things on this radio. It's just crazy. But part of the reason I'm telling you guys about this is because FlySky has announced, and they announced it at the EdgeTX Fest, so it's not like it's breaking news here, but they announced the EL18, which is the successor to the NV14. It's the Elysium, they call it. And this is the thing about this radio I haven't flown with it yet, and part of the reason for that is because I never really believed enough in Edge up until now with this radio. But it's such a strange little radio because it looks alien, right? These handles, they're just spiky, but it's really weird when you have this in your hand how good it feels. And I wanted to bring it up because the reason is because they're bringing out a new radio, and I'm telling you right now, Edge is working really well on this form factor. So if you're out there, one thing I'll tell you about FlySky equipment too is that they make some pretty good stuff, like their gimbals. Let's take a look at their gimbals. I want to show you this. Radio settings, and we'll go into hardware, and we'll do. I'm going to do the analogs. I'm going to find the right screen. There it is. I think, do they all three do it? Yeah, they do. Okay, so what I wanted to show you about this is watch what happens when I move this. This is number 4. See that negative 2136? And then we go this way to 2048. So these are digital gimbals, and they have a 4096 resolution. So they make good hardware. You know, and I think the pots are the same deal, if I'm not mistaken. Not quite. They're 2000 bits of resolution, so about half. But still, that's substantial. That's good resolution on a pot. And that's the thing about FlySky. I got a hold of their Paladin PL18, and I did fly with that. And I commented during the video that when I flew with that the radio hardware felt fantastic. It's very sturdy feeling, very high end. It's a very premium feeling product. And the thing about it is they're really, you know, if you're looking at one of these gamepad style radios, this is almost. It's almost a full-size radio. It's kind of like a hybrid, I guess. It feels like a full-size radio, and I guess size-wise, it's actually pretty close. You know, it's pretty close. There's the length, and there's the width. Let's see, I'll put it this way, see if you guys can see it. So I'd say, yeah, I guess form factor-wise, it feels pretty much like it's size-wise, it is basically a full-size radio. But the thing about it is, boy, does it feel good in the hands. It's got the triggers in the back. I think ergonomically, I only have 2 real issues with this radio. One is the proximity of these 2 switches. So if you want to operate this switch, you got to get your finger in there and kind of pry it in there. And then this one is a momentary switch. So they're very close. They're very close together. And that's the one, I think one issue that I had is that they're very close together from an ergonomic standpoint. And the pots, they put this little knob right there. It's like this little standoff right there. You can get your finger on it, but it's too slippery. The bottom line is it's got the wrong shape. It's got this cone shape that's inverted. So that means when you try and grab it, it's a shiny piece of metal. You try and grab the knob and your finger falls off the end. So you really need to operate it by pushing on that little nipple on the end, and that thing is real small. So I think those are my only real 2 gripes ergonomically about the radio. But in the hand, boy, it feels really good. And the point I wanted to make about Edge is that it is usable. I've gone through this thing top to bottom. It is usable. I would fly with this. In fact, I probably will. I probably will put something on it and go fly it and try it out because it's impressive. And there's one other little cool party trick this thing has. Let me show you this. So you got this cover. You got this hard cover. You can turn this off this way. And you put the cover on. You latch it on the back like that and drop it in there. And it pretty much, except for the switches on the back, it pretty much covers everything. It covers everything on the front. And that's a hard plastic cover. So it's kind of neat. It's kind of a neat radio, and they're coming out with a new one. I'll also tell you guys that one other thing that I had to do, you notice I've got an Express LRS module on the back. It does work, but I want to show you guys this too. There's my project case, and you can tell that's had some surgery. And the reason it had surgery is because on the back of the radio, I had to get my pointer. You guys know I never start a video with my pointer. Right here, this pin guide stands proud of the base. Here's the base right here, and this pin guide stands proud. So when I was first trying to install the module, it wouldn't sit flush against the base, and it wouldn't latch. And because it wouldn't latch, now it latches. It completely latches. See that on the side there? That's latched in. So what was happening is it wasn't biting in, and the module wasn't turning on. Initially, I thought, well, maybe I have a hardware problem. but I figured it out. And the issue was that that base didn't sit flat. So I hope they fix that. You know, all they really need to do, if they need to keep that pin guide, is they just need to extend, you know, the latch area a little bit. But it did require surgery. And by the way, no matter how hard I pressed, it was not going to lock. And if it did, I would be afraid it would pop out. So that's the only hit that I give the radio in terms of functionality. But if I click on, in terms of a problem, I should say, I talked a little bit about the ergonomic issues, but let's go into radio settings. And I just wanted to show you guys, there's the Express LRS. It fires right up. So that came right up, and I'm talking to the module, and you can see that works with Express LRS. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to the next iteration of this radio. I'm going to try it out. FlySky's already reached out. They're going to send me one, and I'm looking forward to testing this radio out. And what I like about it is it's yet another option with EdgeTX, right? And it depends on your desires, right, and tastes. I think the TX16S, I think this form factor will always be my primary radio, but I'm interested in this one because it just has a different feel, and I love the hardware. I think they do a really nice job with the hardware. It feels like a really solid radio. And by the way, one other little party trick this one has, if you're an FPV pilot, let me show you this. So this is where the batteries go, and they're in parallel. So check that out. Batteries out, radio's still on. So the reason that's cool is if you're an FPV pilot and you're flying long missions, long flights, you can change your radios mid-flight. You could put that thing on a 2D hold mode and then, you know, swap your batteries out if you need to. So it's a pretty cool little party trick that they run these in parallel. And oh, by the way, that caused another neat little issue that I want to show you guys. So what happened was when I realized what was going on with the batteries being in parallel, where is that setting? Is that over here in hardware? Yeah, there it is. So here's the issue that caused. Normally, when you set up your battery meter range, so when I say they run in parallel, notice I've got the range set up for 3 volts to 4 volts, right? So what happened was, if you use your normal range, there's my battery, it's at 4 volts. Okay, so remember, a lithium ion cell is only 4.2 volts. So because they're in parallel, it never goes above 4.2 volts, ever. And so if you use the normal battery range for this under radio settings, if you use the normal one, which I think somebody was asking about, he said he was talking about battery voltage on his radio in Discord. And I mentioned, hey, maybe change the battery, but you got to make sure that battery meter range is set correctly. And so you look at this and say, well, 4.1 volts, that's the high end. 3.0, why is that the low end? Because we know these lithium ion batteries can go down to 2.6. So it should be 2.6. Well, the Edge developers on the Discord, and this is the value of Discord, right? I posed this question in our Discord, and the Edge developers came back and said they checked with FlySky, and the answer is that when you start getting below 3 volts, you have a problem. You can potentially run into a problem providing the correct step-up voltage to the transmitter modules. So 3 volts is the recommended floor. And the reason I came up with that issue, by the way, because I was trying to set mine. Let me see if I can get this thing to edit for me. I was trying to set it to something below 3 volts, and it wouldn't let me. It wouldn't let me. It was like, no, 3 volts as low as you can go. So I asked the question. I said, hey, given that this thing runs in parallel and we may be able to run our batteries a little lower, can we go below 3 volts? I thought maybe they might make an adjustment to the software to allow us to set the range down at 2.6, but they went and checked with the FlySky engineers, and they came back and said, no, you're really 3 volts is about the minimum. So I think that's very cool. I mean, number one, you know, they're putting thought into it and they're keeping everything safe. Number two, they've got access to the engineers who do this kind of work, and they know who to communicate with. So two things that come out of this for me is, number one, thanks again, Edge guys. And number two, I really got to give props to FlySky for being involved with the community, because they're answering these types of questions. That's a good question. You know, it's a good question to understand how low can we go, because we're losing 0.4 right off the range, but there's a reason for it. And the reason for it is because you need the higher voltage in order to power everything correctly on the radio. So that's it. I just, quick little tour of that thing. And I did want to point out, check out the FlySky website. They've got that Elysium coming out. It's red and black carbon. It looks pretty good. And it is going to be, they have been working with the Edge team. It is going to release with EdgeTX. So another EdgeTX radio option out there, especially if you like this form factor, another one that's going to be available. And I think they're very similar looking in terms of their capabilities. So that's that. Let's go back to the desktop. I'm going to check questions and then we will finish up the video. Let's see here. Fail-safe modes. Yep, covered that. So let's see, ruined my radio. Got that one. Really love to look at that FlySky. Yeah, the FlySky, they have an interesting product set, and I'm really excited for them because I think when I look at FlySky, I kind of get this sense that they have really strong hardware failed by software. And I think if they get the software sorted out, boy, it's really going to bring another vehicle or avenue of radio technology out to the market, which is good. For consumers, it's a good thing. Hobie says, for all the new guys, please consider. Yeah, thanks, Hobie, for the Patreon plug. I appreciate you, man. I wish controller makers would standardize the gimbal form factor and make a huge. Yeah. Well, maybe, that's kind of their thing, though, right? I guess. Norm says it's OpenTX, but easy enough to figure out. Been using it ever since I saw this. Okay, I'm not sure what that references to, but the NV14 maybe? I'm not sure. If they offset that smaller rear switch further out would be perfect. Yeah, they do really need to kind of separate these just a little bit. They could bring this one in a little, I guess, this one, and they have room. That's the thing about it. They have room. They could move that in 5 full millimeters and that would create probably enough room. So yeah, or extend the back out a little bit, either one. But yeah, that's one of the ergonomic bummers I have about the radio. If those gimbals are good, that upcoming version could give Radio Master some competition. I agree. Hobie says, would you use it for 3D? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It feels very comfortable in the hands. But now keep in mind, you can pinch with this too. I think I'm not a pincher. I'd love to put this in the hands, and maybe I will. Maybe I'll send this to a pincher. I'd love to put this in the hands of a pincher and see how they do with it. I know Rob likes to toy around with this kind of stuff. But a pincher, yeah, I think you could do either one. It kind of... And the reason is because they have this solid trigger right here and you can get a good grip on it. You see, that's the trick. You got to be able to get the good grip on it and then lock it in. And once you've done that, you free up your index and your thumb, you can pinch. Now, I don't think it's designed for pinchers. Like, I feel like the bottom of the handle pushes my hands out a little bit. So I'm not sure. I'm not a pincher, so I really don't know. It definitely is not straight. You can see there's an angle versus these types of radios where they're straight. So when you hold these like this, your hands aren't being pushed out like that. And I think that might be an issue for some. But I guess if your hands are big enough, maybe it wouldn't matter. Or, if you just change your grip around, maybe it also wouldn't matter. I guess if you can put 2 fingers down there, I don't know. I would be interested to see what pinchers say about this radio. But it certainly feels like I can reach all the throws without too much effort. Honestly, I'm not struggling to kind of reach the throws. It's not a problem. So yeah, Hobie, to answer your question, I would use it for 3D. The Good Life says the link I posted that the mods deleted was John's throttle cut video. Guess that's not allowed. No, The Good Life, the only ones that can post links are the mods. So thanks for looking it up, but the moderator's the only one that can do that. That's a legit feature. I never saw a link. Good Life, links are hidden for normal users, only mods. Yep, I got it. Have to be a mod. Okay, you guys are on top of it. I'm a pincher. Midwest RC says I'm a pincher. Yeah, I need to try it. I was lamenting the fact with Freddie that I was out flying the Tron helicopter and I was doing, I think, TikToks, and I thought I was sliding, and I thought it might have had something to do with the fact that I was a thumber, and I probably wasn't. I was probably moving my rudder a little bit when I went up. I think that I probably really need to try pinching. I don't know. I feel like I'd be a little nervous switching to that. But I probably need to try it because I have the idea that the pinchers are probably more accurate. I'm just guessing. I'm not confessing. I'm just guessing. All right, let's go back to the big desktop and we'll see what's next here. That's it for the NV14. Now we're on to the giveaway. Oh, the giveaway. Pinching's more accurate in my opinion. It's certainly I'm starting to get that impression, Robert, that it's probably something I need to start working on. Me too, but I rely on a strap. Yeah, you definitely need a strap for that, no doubt about it. Pinching gives you almost a low rate. Yeah, I know. I got to try it. I know if Rob or Freddie's kind of a hybrid pincher, and I know Rob's learned to be a pincher. So I know, and I don't know about Oliver. I don't know if he does it. I've heard converts say it took weeks to change to pinch. Yeah, maybe I need to get like something like the Grim Reaper and fly that around and learn to pinch on the Grim Reaper. That might not be a bad idea. You can always switch back too, I guess, but I think I need to give it a try. That's what I think I need to do. I think I need to give it a try. All right, let's do the giveaway, and then we're going to wrap it up, and I'll tell you about what's coming up. Okay, let's see. Where did I put the giveaway stuff? Here it is. Thumbing is better, says Torpedo Law. I've been a thumber the whole time. I feel comfortable as a thumber, but man, I flying the helicopters really kind of exposed it. It did. Ken says, when I get the maiden shakes, pinching seems to amplify them. Does it really? Oh boy, I'll have to try. All right, let's see here. We have, for the giveaway, I don't have the board out, but we're giving away an X10 Plus. So last week I did an announcement. I'll put a radio in the scene so we have something. We need Robert to have, here, we'll put Precious in and give Robert a nice full frontal. There you go, Robert. There you go, buddy. That's just for you. Fail safe, not test radio. Don't punish me for it. It's test radio. Okay, so the giveaway, we're giving away one of the X10 boards. I did the announcement last week. You guys had to... I knew I was waiting for it. He says, and see, with the picture of Precious, I'd be a smacker. Oh, poor Precious. Don't worry. Robert keeps trying to talk me out of this radio, but it's not going to happen. This radio stays, because I know what would happen. He'd send me a Blender video. It'd be like one of those horror films where the bad guy puts a video of the bad things he's doing to the victim. That's why Robert's never going to get his hands on Precious. This radio stays here. Anyway, so last week I did the announcement. We're doing a giveaway, and it's for an X10 power expander. And the X10 power expander, if you remember, is a board that has the ability to take high current input directly from a battery. It has dual receiver inputs, and it will do high current output on the servo rail up to 80 amps. So it's a nice little board. I found them at Aloft Hobbies. They have them, and Extreme Power Systems has them as well. I actually flew the 73-inch slick with it. I like it a lot. It's a good solution. It's not great. The thing that I don't like about it is that, and it's not, oh, by the way, hold on. Let me backpedal. It's a great solution, but with Express LRS, there are problems. And the problems are that if you feed 8.4 volts in, you can't feed 8.4 volts out to the receiver, because you have to use the you have to use the CRSF to S-Bus converter board. And that S-Bus converter board only takes 5 volts. So you can't run 8.4 volts through the converter to the receiver. So that's a problem. Which means you have to add a BEC. So now you're taking power from the board, running it through a BEC, then running it through an S-Bus converter, and then running it into the ELRS receiver. So I have my Slick 73 set up that way. It works. The reason I don't like it is because every time you add an element, you create another potential point of failure. And that's unfortunate. But with that out of the way, it works. Now, if you're only going to run 5 volts into that board, then you don't need the BEC. You can supply 5 volts directly to the S-Bus converter board and then directly to the receiver. So just keep that in mind. But other than that, it flew great on the Slick. I don't have any problems. The only other, I think, limitation that I uncovered with that one is your refresh rate has to be 100 hertz or less. It does not take 333 or 16 divided by 2. It doesn't take 150. It has to be 100 or less. So just keep that in mind as well. You have to have a refresh rate at about 100 hertz. And that's it. Other than that, it's a great solution. It worked well. High current draw capability on servos for bigger planes. You've got the up to 10 gauge wire input for power, and it's a very clean setup with dual receiver, and so it works. So anyway, let's get into the giveaway. Now remember, the rules are real quick on the giveaway. You have to send me an email with a photo ID showing me that you're over the 18 or over. It has to be within 24 hours. It is now 2032 Eastern time in the United States. You have to send the email to me by 2030 on Saturday, the 22nd of October. And that email has to show me a government issued ID with a photograph and an age proving that you're 18 or over. And once I get that, then I will go ahead and send the X10 power expander out in the mail to you. And that's that. So I'm going to do a little drum roll. I told you guys I need to get a drum roll. So here it is. And it's Four Eyes. Four Eyes won the X10 power expander. He said, give me the X10. So Four Eyes, congratulations. I think he's here too. Yeah, he's here. He's here. Don't go in the shed. So Four Eyes, you won one. I don't know. Is this the first time you won? I don't remember. I give away a lot of stuff. So I'm not sure if this is his first time or not, but congratulations, Four Eyes. You got yourself an X10, and I will get that in the mail to you as soon as you send me the email with your photo ID. Now, hey, I want to remind you guys, if you've ever won from me in the past, I delete everything. I don't store people's driver's license or personal information. So if you win, you have to send it to me. Don't think if you ever won anything from me in the past, I don't keep that stuff. So you still have to follow the rules. So that's that. All right, let's get back to the desktop. We'll talk about what's coming up next. All right. That is it. That's the rest of the content. So we're going to talk about what's next. And here's the thing that's coming up next. And I actually, Dave, you guys know Dave. Dave he mentioned this idea to me, but I'd already kind of had a mind to do it. And so here's the deal. You know that over the last couple of weeks, I've added a number, last couple of months, not weeks. I've added a number. See the video? I've added a number of these 60-inch class 3D planes, right? I have the 300 V2. I have the Gamebird GB1. I have the Laser, and I have the Edge 540. Now, out of all of them, the Edge 540 is the only one made by a different manufacturer. So what I'm thinking, and what Dave volunteered to help me do, is to do a 60 class 3D plane shootout. And that's what I want to do. So I think it might be done this weekend. So the idea is that Dave and I are both going to fly the planes. He's going to fly it. I'm going to fly it. And we're going to use report cards. Now, I'm going to caveat it by saying, you guys know, if you follow my channel, you know I'm not an expert 3D pilot. I've been teaching myself some things. I've been learning some new tricks. But what I can do are some basic maneuvers. I can do the knife edge, the Harrier, the inverted flat spin. I can do stuff like that. The figure eights, the Cuban eights, in flying inverted. I can do some. You guys haven't seen it, but I actually can do. They're called they're not barrel rolls, but they're rifles. I think they call them rifle rolls. I can't do it quite that fast, but I can actually do rolls in a circle, believe it or not. I don't do that one on film because it's kind of boring and I want to get better at it still, but I can do it. So the idea is that I'm gonna build a report card, and then we're going to fly the planes, and Dave's going to grade it, and I'm going to grade it, and we're going to take the one that Dave likes the best, the one that John likes the best, and the best overall. And the idea is to compare the difference between, say, how an Edge versus a Laser versus a 300 fly. What do we see in these planes in terms of how they fly and how they behave in the air? Again, I'm going to preface it by saying I'm not a 3D expert, but I can do some of the maneuvers. And as a novice, I think it will give you guys, when I say novice, I mean novice 3D. You guys know I can fly a plane. But I think what it'll do is give you some idea if you're beginning your journey into 3D, or if you're not a pro 3D pilot. It'll give you an idea of what to expect if you pick one of these planes up, and what we like about them, what we don't like about them. So that's the idea, because honestly, it can be very difficult when you're looking at all of them. It almost comes down to aesthetic and price. So if you don't have some kind of reference point, to say, well, here's what works really well on this plane versus what doesn't, it can be very challenging to figure out which one to get. So that's one of the values of the review channel, is I have the equipment now. Now I can actually do a comparative test and show you guys, and it'll be some subjectivity, right? Because Dave will fly it and he'll say what he liked about it and didn't like, and so will I. But at least you'll have some idea, and we'll try and get it all on film. So I just wanted to let you guys know that's the plan. That's coming up, and I am going to go ahead and put that video together. I'm going to try and do it this weekend if possible. If not, it'll be next weekend, but that is an upcoming thing on the channel that you should expect to see in short order. Okay. All right, so that's that in terms of what's coming. I'm also still waiting for the EdgeTX 2.8 to drop, and when that drops, we'll be doing a video on what to expect. So I'll be doing a conversion video for that. I want to show you guys a little bit about what happens to your models and settings. I want to do the on-camera conversion so you see it, and you can see what will happen to your radio when you do that switch. So that'll be coming up when 2.8 drops, but I can't predict when that'll happen. I did ask, and the answer I got back, because we don't rush these guys, and I know they understand when I ask. It's just to understand, timing. But I did ask, and they're still working out some things, right? There are a couple of bugs that came in that they need to fix, and I can tell you the list is very small, though. It's a very short list if you look at the issue tracker. So it'll be released when it's released. That's the bottom line. But when it does, I'll be doing a conversion video on 2.8. And that's it. That's all I have planned upcoming. And of course, you know, I'm looking at the next airframe as well. So I've been looking around. I haven't made any decisions on that. So I don't have an airframe inbound yet, which is good because that'll give us time to do these types of videos. And honestly, I'd really like to get the Slick out again and fly that some more. Had a good time with that plane. I'd like to fly that one some more. And I'm actually starting to come into my own on the helicopters a little bit too. So I'll keep working on that as well. All right, let's see. I'm going to check the comments and we're going to wrap it up. Now I have to watch the video again for the 5th time. Okay, yeah, go watch it. Go watch it again. You guys keep watching the videos. Love it when you guys do that. Not this, Dave. You had me confused for a second. Inverted flat. Oh yeah, the inverted flat spin. Yeah, we can do that. And that's another one that I still need to work on. Like, I know how to do it, but I need to work on making it pretty, right? I still need to work on that. That's what I mean by not being an expert, right? I can do some stuff, but I need to make them right. And then I need to learn how to stitch them all together. So that's what that's kind of where I am right now. It's kind of, I guess, in a very similar place with the helicopters too. Let's see. Discord, all Daves are going to show up in the field ready to fly. John, yeah, Dave. Yeah, you guys know Dave. It's Dave. He's the one that does the pattern stuff. Anyway, Steven says, thanks for the great info. Well, you're welcome, Steven. I appreciate you guys joining me on Friday night. Now, reminder, guys, on the next Friday, let's see, what day is that? 28th. No pilot jam. No pilot jam on the 28th. I'm going to be at a football game. It should be the last one. This one was a surprise to me. I didn't think we were going to be in the playoffs, but we are. So it was a surprise to me. So that for that reason, no pilot jam next Friday. I'll be at a football game, and we'll get right back on schedule after that, starting in November. So just keep that in mind. No pilot jam next Friday. Jeff says, another great session, John. See you again 2 weeks from now. Appreciate that. And that's it. All right, David Knutz. All right, guys, that wraps up the show for tonight. Hope you had a good time. And I want to remind you guys, be safe out there. Be safe out there and get out there and fly something. Have a good time. Get out there and fly something. Take it easy.